Hey there, Maria back with another video. It's 9:50 a.m. It is February 21st. It is Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. You're smack dab in the middle of the week for those who are working that 40-hour work week. You just got 2 more days to go. Hopefully you're keeping your spirits up and shaking up your routine during the day. So anyway, I am sitting here at my house and I'm taking it easy this morning. So, I got up around 5 o'clock this morning. I stirred around a little bit and then I went back to bed. Then I got back up around like 8 o'clock. So I just started thinking, about finishing up my video. And I got distracted yesterday earlier, and the only thing I really did was I completed it. I knitted a hat for my son, which really should have been done a long time ago. I like to get my knitting in like around August and September. That way I'm prepared for the fall season. But I just been like, obviously we know that I've been dealing with a lot of stagnation and frustration and stuff like that, and just like having my, what do you call it, my mood kind of shifting into a negative space because of all the frustrations that's been going on. So I'm trying to pick up, and catch up with what I'm doing. And so, and the more I think about this video that I'm working on for YouTube, it's called Plants of the Mind. Like I said, it's giving me more to want to add to it, and sharing my experiences. And as I was like really thinking, because I'm talking about, in this particular video, the spiritual and the medicinal benefits of certain plants from the earth. Okay, and of course, cannabis would be one of them. And I was thinking about, I'm basically talking about the different cultures that have used cannabis and other entheogens to promote their connection with deity or through rituals or whatever. So I'm talking about that. And then I'm also talking about, the health benefits of it. But I will say that there is going to be a part of me, of the video, where I'm going to be talking about my personal experiences with using plants of the earth, or I'm going to call it, in my video, it's called Plants of the Mind, my personal experiences with it. And I was thinking about, it's hard not to think about how my connection with cannabis originated because, I will say that in the beginning, my use of cannabis was strictly for escape, you know, and I knew that back in the 90s, my life was just literally falling apart. Like, I couldn't deal with the fact that my father was dying of Alzheimer's. I couldn't deal with the fact that he was in a nursing home. I couldn't deal with the fact that people were always acting weird around me. I couldn't deal with the fact that every time I started a job, I was being mobbed out of it. I could not stand the fact that every time I was in an apartment complex, people seemed to always want to know me. You know what I mean? And some people actually made friends with, or quote unquote friends, perpy friends, whatever you want to call them. But I knew that my environment was very unhappy. It was very toxic. And I don't want to go too much into my experience with going into what I'm going to call it my rebellious. And I will say rebellious because I do understand that any sort of substance that you overindulge in, I'm going to be realistic. These are my views on things like alcohol and things like cannabis. Like I do talk about balance, okay? People should be balanced. There's nothing wrong with people going out and having a drink or two with a friend. But there are some people who rely on alcohol. It's not just a drink to be casual or loosen up. Some people they get up and they literally have a bottle of Jack Daniels on their bedside so they can get that first swig in the morning because they need it. They are that dependent on it. I've known people who are such alcoholics, okay, that it literally seems to come out of their pores. Like they have this ticklish type smell to them because they are so, you know, reliant on this particular substance to get them through. And um, my view on overindulgence in substances is because people do it because they feel trapped. There is a certain form of misery that they are going through, and they know that death is something that's a little bit too serious, but they also understand that their issues sometimes can get very overwhelming and they need some form of escape. Now, I am not saying that this is something that I approve of. I don't think it's the right way to go, but it's an understandable situation to be in. Now, I'm going to tell you, I didn't understand like the whole root cause of what all the chaos that was going on around me when I was back in the 90s. I knew weird shit was going on, but I didn't know the whole thing about it. But all I knew was is that I wanted to escape the suffering that I was dealing with. I am never going to sit here and try to make excuses for it. It just, I was tired of dealing with it, and that was my only option. Okay, that I honestly feel, especially when you look at the situation now and understand how big this operation was. There was nothing I could have done. There was nothing I could have done to have gotten out of that situation. Everywhere I went, I was dealing with this bullshit. Everywhere. Okay. So when I'll talk about the story. My whole experience with cannabis back in the illegal periods, but um, and I say illegal because it wasn't legal back then. It was something that you had to literally go out and find on your own. And I always managed to find it. I always managed to find it. But I did it because I was miserable, absolutely miserable under that situation. Um, you know, and this is why people have their forms of addiction. And it's easy to sit there and say, oh, this person's an alcoholic, or this person some sort of has this particular fixation with this and this and this. But what do you have to replace that with? If you don't have the solution to their problem, it really doesn't make sense to sit here and like belittle them, because obviously we know that life is hard, and for some people it's not just hard, it's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous obstacle course that no one really should have to sit here and deal with, and then that was my case. Okay, so, and I am going to be talking about, how I view overindulgence. I don't agree with it, but I also understand that people hurt inside. They hurt. Okay. I mean, especially the way that this, this whole way that like, if people live and operate under this system, okay, like this horrible system where, so much is manipulated, um, so much is so there's so much demoralizing type things going on, in their environment, restricting their freedom, making them feel as though they have no other way out. What do you expect? What do you expect people to do? You know what I mean? In my situation, and perhaps in other targeted, people's situation, they get put in what I call re-education type situations. Like, they may not like the way that you are expressive. They don't like certain things about you. So they, put you in situations to try to train you to be the opposite of what they want you to be. Of oh, how should I say this? They try to put you in situations to where you are going to adapt and change into something else. Okay. Um, you know, the problem with it is, like I mentioned about workplace balance, work-life balance, is that, like I said, if the system works the way that did for me, okay, for everybody, this would be the root of their suffering. This would be a huge part of their suffering. Okay, I know that I've had to not only deal with toxic environments, but also just deal with environments that weren't meant for me from the get go. You know what I mean? Like working in certain industries or having to adapt to certain policies and procedures that sucked and drained the life out of me. Like, some people may think, okay, well, you know what? The uniform thing is really not that big of a deal. It is a big deal when your only thing that keeps you here in this earth is your clothes, because really nothing else is good. This is the truth, okay? Other than the beautiful sky, the flowers, the trees, the green grass that we could roll in, and of course the grass that we can actually smoke, okay? It's very little to care about, okay? And so, by putting such people in situations that, like, perhaps they're giving people jobs, like I believe they gave me jobs so that they could possibly um, manipulate my life into moving into a direction that I would prefer suicide personally than actually gravitate towards any of those sort of ideas that people wanted to enforce on me. But um, the thing is that like, for example, I'm more of a free spirited type person. I have a very open mind. Okay, so like it would be stupid for somebody to arrange a job for me and to be, like, for example, working in a company that seemed, to lean on certain political views, or maybe it would be a company that would be working in direct opposition to certain things that I personally believe in. But this is the job that they gave you. You have to do your job. And a part of your job is like, perhaps to wear a uniform, perhaps to do these sort of things, to eliminate. And I am a complete 100% supporter, meaning, like, I totally believe that people have the right to smoke marijuana. Okay. So it would be opposite. It would be putting me in a situation where right now I would be in an environment that I could only hate. I could only hate what I do every day. It is not in me in any way, shape, or form to have anything to do with the principles and the what do you call it, the collective vision within that company for me to sink my teeth in and want to be a part of. And I'm only working that job basically to pay the bills so that I can exist in a state of misery. This is basically how it is. You know what I mean? And this is why you have all these demoralized people, because they are not in the right jobs. You know what I mean? There are people who, are very open minded. And I personally think that, I was thinking, it'd be kind of cool if I'm not looking to work in a company again ever, but my thing is, it did cross my mind, to make a few extra dollars. Why wouldn't I just go ahead and work at one of those, like, marijuana type shops, right? Because, whatever. But here's the thing, you have somebody who controls your employment. No, we don't want her doing that because that's not something that we would do. I think she should do this because we want her to do this, and this. I already hate my job. I already hate the people who put me there. I already hate, the conversation that's going on around me. I hate coming home, having to deal with, going back the next day and everything else. It's like, people should be fit for their jobs, and their ethics should align with the companies that they work for. Otherwise, like I said, from the get go, there will never be any workplace balance. You know what I mean? And this is just me expressing it because, you know, many people are just like on this hamster wheel. They're on this hamster wheel that is impossible to get off of. They're in jobs that they fucking hate. They're having to be forced to support principles that they don't believe in. They are in many ways, because they're suppressing and repressing certain things that they truly believe in, they're acting out in other negative ways. You know what I mean? Because they don't have balance, and that's the whole issue. When it comes to use of substances of any kind, if you don't have balance in your life, there is going to be a danger of you overindulging in it. Now, I don't support people overindulging in anything. Even something that I believe that cannabis is a plant, okay, that is given to us by the gods, right? Like, I believe that it's a heavenly plant. Okay, that's my personal belief. It grows here, just like, an apple or anything else that was meant to replenish our body, nourish our body, or whatever. I believe that certain plants, like, mushrooms and all these other plants that grow, are for us. Okay, for specific reasons. Okay, now I'm not saying you're supposed to overindulge. And like what I'm talking about, when it comes to religious or spiritual use of these particular plants. It has always been something that was done in a real ritualistic type ceremony. It was administered by, shamans or maybe a head figure or whatever. It was not something that people just did just for the fuck of it. But I will tell you, back in the 90s, that's exactly what I did, and that's all I wanted to do. I would drink alcohol. I would come home drunk. I would drive drunk. I didn't give a fuck. Okay, there was no reason for me to give a fuck. And looking at this situation closer, looking at it closer, and realizing, oh, I was so snowed in. I was so snowed in, like I had no idea what I was really into, like what I was forced to be in or part of. This is one of the reasons why I dealt with so much obstruction and all these other issues that I could not figure out. Okay. So, aside from actually killing myself, which would not have been a really bad idea considering the fact that I was fucked from the get go, I chose overindulgence in certain substances. I will never apologize for that. I will never apologize for that because I think, it's given me like a better idea of people suffering, understanding why they do it, and the hopelessness that comes over a person when they choose to live in that sort of manner. Now, my use for marijuana now is basically for relaxation. You know what I mean? It does not seem to have the same sort of euphoric feeling as intense as it did when I was younger. I still do support it. I do still think that it's something that it's a blessed thing. You know what I mean? It can be. Um, what else did I want to say today about? Oh, okay. Some of my intuitive messages that I've been getting. Yeah, I did want to express the issue of the frustration of workplace balance and how I'm very disappointed that the employment sector works in this function so commonly that they don't even realize that it is against the law and the reasons why. And I kept thinking about how morbid, how twisted this all is. It's like imagine like for example you're a hard worker, right? And you've got these friends, right, that live across the street, and they're always inviting you over and stuff like that. And they invite you over because secretly they're manipulating your employment, right? And they're like fucking your shit up. Like they lay you off when they fucking want to. And just to see you suffer, just to see you squirm, right? And then they decide to give you a job, right? And then you fucking hate the job. You hate it. You're so fucking unhappy. You're miserable. They're bullying you there, right? And then they keep inviting you over just to see how you're doing. But this is their like little secret. It's like people enacting out their petty shit, their competitions, their frustrations, their anger, and manipulating the biggest part of your life, your career, and thinking nothing of it. It's like you're literally. I mean, I am very sad to say that this sort of corruption is so normal in the minds of people that this is one of the reasons why they felt justified to do it. But technically, legally, that's not how the process should work. Okay, it's supposed to be where people get fairly evaluated on their adequacies. You know what I mean? And that's how it's supposed to be based on. There is nothing wrong with people arranging people's jobs, but like I said, if it's done for specific reasons, whether that be trying to force somebody to get married, somebody to keep somebody married, or keep somebody, let's just say, for example, there was this dude who had like nothing but acne on his face. Like he was just like this walking pimple. He was gross. He was an alcoholic. Alcohol, poured out of his veins, as did his family's veins, and so on. So he was like the most disgusting person in the world, right? So this particular person is in love with this girl, right? So he is trafficking her. He's got other people trafficking her and everything else. So she's basically being kind of directed towards this particular person, right? Now, that's the last person she fucking want to have to deal with, but this is what they're doing beyond her control. So let's just say, for example, oh man, I never even wanted that person in the first place. So they finally get together and she realized, hey, I never wanted to fucking deal with that person in the first place. I always hated that dude, so on and so forth, right? Now that's 5 years because they've been playing this little game of setting her up in jobs and fucking her shit up and all this other stuff. That's been 5 years that they've been playing with her life, where she could have been like trying to do something to try to get herself out of the situation, but no, they wasted 5 years of her life, and it's just like, oh my god, it's horrible. It's horrible. Okay. So anyway, I wanted to say that because, and this is not me trying to pick a fight, but I'm looking back on my life, and it's very difficult not to look back on my life because basically I have been placed in a situation where all I can really do is sit here and think about my fucking life, you know what I mean? Because God knows I'm not out and about, right? And the reason why I'm not out and about was because I have developed phobias of the weirdness. And believe me, when I go out and take care of my business and doing something, I'm actually doing a pretty good thing because it takes a lot for me to have to deal with this. It really does. Anyway, I am inspiring other women. I got this message that I'm inspiring other women to take care of themselves, and I'm not just saying this for women, I'm talking about people in general, you know what I mean? You should. We live in a very abusive system, that abuse goes on in your household, it goes on out in the street, it goes on out in the workplace. It's just abuse, 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 abuse. Everywhere you look, it's a total abuse. Why not take care of yourself? Why not adorn yourself? Why not take care of the only person that truly cares about you, which is you? You know what I mean? So yeah, you know what I mean? I think that's wonderful. I wanted to just come on here and just talk a little bit because I'm not really quite ready to dive into finishing up my video. I guess I am taking it a little bit more easy, but there's just been a lot on my mind and thinking a lot of through this whole thing. And, I mean, like I said, I would love to move on. You know what I mean? This is why I wanted to make sure that I was understood because I want to move on because I'm tired of like complaining and reflecting back. I want new experiences. I need new experiences. I need to be able to stimulate my mind into different directions other than, sitting here bringing up issues that, to me should have been long dead and gone, but I'm understanding more like what exactly plowed through my life, how I got to where I am, and it's like, man, I did my best. I did my very best. You know what I mean? And I never tried to be a burden to anyone. I don't know what else to say. You know what I mean? I'm hoping, I know I can't really hope for things to, change for other people, but I do understand their suffering, and I do try to encourage people to take time out for themselves and love themselves and nourish themselves because we do. I mean, this is horrible. If you really look at the situation, this is it's just wrong. Okay, it's so anyway, I'm gonna wrap up this video. I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say. Let me think of what I was writing here. Um, yeah, I guess that's it. There's certain people that I have not finished. I still need to reach out to some more people on Instagram. Like I said, I'm dealing with a lot of social issues right now, anxiety issues, freaked out over this issue. But I don't want animosity. I don't. You know what I mean? I do want to make peace, meaning like I just want to move on with my life. I don't want to sit here and like, go off I don't want to. I mean, I do understand that there was a lot of ignorance that went on there, and some of it was malicious, but like seriously, whatever. I don't, at this point, whatever. I just really want to go on with my life. You know what I mean? And then I want to stop talking about this. There's so many things that I want to record and do and explore, talk about and present. Instead of like talking about this issue, and I could get right back into what I need to do without reflecting on this because this is really the only solution for me at this point. So anyway, I'm gonna wrap this video, and I might be back with another video sometime later. I need to work on finishing that video, Plans of the Mind. I'll be back with another video sometime later. Take care. Bye bye.